Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Tuesday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's Tuesday. That means we got good old Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show will join us here in just a second. Second portion of the show today, we're going to have Ed Berliner. His company down in the Orlando area is called Entourage Media. He also hosts a show called The Man in the Arena. He's an Emmy Award journalist, actor, who did an interview with Coach Spurrier and Bobby Bowden not too long ago. We'll talk about that. But first, let's go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're going to be joined by good old Buddy Mark. Good morning, buddy. How are you?
Good morning, Shane. Here's how I am. I have no idea what's going on. I'm trying to keep up where the games are. I don't even know who won the last game last night. I'm a mess. So I got you today to straighten me out and tell me what's going on, what the schedule is, and let me see if I can get back in this game called March Madness, okay?
Well, I guess yesterday there were a lot of good matchups, but, man, there were a lot of blowouts. So
yeah, really.
Here's what we got on Saturday, buddy. Intriguing game, two very high seeds. You got Oregon State and Loyola Chicago are playing to go to the Elite Eight. Then you got Villanova Baylor, Oral Roberts and Arkansas. They've already played once.
Yeah,
they've already played once this year.
Oh, they have?
Yeah, Oral Roberts lost to them by 10, I think, at Bud Walton Arena.
Really? Okay.
And then Houston and Syracuse play, which could be a very interesting game. And then on Sunday, you have Creighton and Gonzaga. Then you got Florida State and Michigan.
I like that one.
UCLA and Alabama. And then a all Pac-12 game, Oregon, USC. So the Pac-12 has, four teams left. They just got beat. Who lost? Colorado. Florida State beat Colorado.
Hammered them.
First loss for the Pac-12, the Conference of Champions. Isn't that what Bill Walton calls them?
That's right. He does this.
Yeah, I laugh every time I watch a game when he's calling the Conference of Champions. I'm like, they ain't won a damn championship in 50 years.
And anything.
Well, they're playing pretty good this year. So, buddy, I was on your show last night, and obviously the day after the debacle, whatever you want to call it, the collapse that Florida had against Oral Roberts, it is what it is. The sun did come up again today on Tuesday. And I know people are calling for Mike White. He's not going anywhere. But although you told me last night he may leave on his own.
No, I didn't say he may leave. I said there's somebody out there who says, and this is just speculation, and I frankly don't believe it, but it was mentioned to me by somebody who has a little bit of knowledge. There's a possibility Mike White could leave. And I said, well, I guess there's that possibility. Always with a coach leaving. I don't think it's going to happen. I think when you settle in, you're good at this. You're good at sorting out all the garbage and putting aside all the mania, and saying, hey, look, this is not that terrible. But remember this, and I'm going to get into this a little bit. You can't let PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, which is what's happened now. I mean, think about what this country's been through with.
Oh, yeah.
And then you add in the anxiety of you finally get your sports back, and your team breaks your heart. You can't let that rule the day. And I think that's what we're going through with right now. I don't mean to minimize that syndrome because it's a serious deal. I'm just thinking right now, Gator fans need to regroup and, as you say, take a breath, look at what's real, think about who you could get, as you said on my show last night. Who are you going to get? Who are you going to get? Franz gave me 2 or 3 names last night. Nobody knocks me out.
Who are
they?
Right.
Gosh, the coach.
You remember?
Yeah, I had to go back. The coach at San Diego was one. There's no headliner. Here's what I want to say about that.
Well, I mean,
one quick comment. Billy Donovan ain't coming through that door. Okay, let's get real.
Here's the thing, buddy. I would like to go back to the Buddy Martin show. What was it in 1990? When did Billy get hired? 1996, 97?
90. Spurrier introduced him to me.
It would have been 96 because Lon Kruger was here when I was
at his luncheon on 96.
Yeah. Okay. How many people you think, if you would have had the Buddy Martin show, which you may have had it back then, or we had social media, how many people would be all over Twitter going, why are we hiring somebody from Marshall University?
Great point. And by the way, and I will admit, did I look at his face at 29? Thought, why are they hiring a kid like that nobody ever heard of? I said it. A lot of people thought it. I was working at that time. What was I doing? I think I might have been in Gator Country and wrote, okay, but are we like getting nursery school kids in to coach now? Nobody knew who Billy Donovan was.
No. And Jeremy, Jeremy took a risk, and that's what happens. It's no different than because buddy, I love college basketball. I watch it a lot.
I know you do.
And I told a good friend of the show last year that they hired a very good, a young, energetic guy that's going to change their basketball program at the University of Alabama. He laughed at me. He's like, it's basketball. We don't care. Well, I'll be damned if he ain't beating the door down and sending me texts every 5 minutes about Alabama basketball now. So, you know, nobody knew who Nate Oates was. The only reason I knew who Nate Oates was because of what he was doing at Buffalo and their style of play. So you never know. Mike White was an up-and-coming coach coming out of La Tech, and he's still going to be our coach. And I personally think this year we overachieved.
Okay.
I think we overachieved.
That's fair.
Because I still think we only have one legitimate starter in Trey Mann. I believe everyone else, and Castleton's a good player. He's solid. I believe everyone else are good players, but they should be backups. They should be coming off the bench. And then the traumatic event of what happened to Keontae, I think people just kind of wipe it under the rug now. I mean, I don't think any of us know what Mike White has gone through this year because he is responsible for those kids. Those are his kids. And to see a player do that, and, you know, I read a story where Mike White was sleeping on the couch in Keontae's hospital room for days, you know, praying that kid would wake up.
Well, I'm sure.
So I think we got to look at the big picture here. They've gone through a lot, but I still think they overachieved, in my opinion, from watching a lot of college basketball. And yes, we should have won the game against Oral Roberts, but I still think we overachieved this year.
Back to your point, Jeremy called Rick Pitino and asked him who they should hire. And he said, well, they got this kid that played, you know, for Providence, basically. He's doing really well at Marshall. He's going to be a hell of a coach. And that's how Jeremy got on that track. And you're absolutely right. You're 100% right. I'm going to start calling you Dr. Matthews. Hang your shingle out as a shrink because you can help these fans. But I want to emphasize, you made a great point about Billy. My wife said to me, he looks like a baby. And he did at 29, and nobody knew. And I just want to say again, like Joe Namath used to say when back in his days of going to bars looking for girls, he'd get at the bar and with his friends, and he had a famous saying, fellas, it's midnight and Miss America ain't coming through that door. Okay, he actually said that. That was his right. And this, to Gator fans, it's midnight and Billy Donovan ain't coming through that door. And by the way, who's Billy Donovan? They named the floor after him, for crying out loud. How many of those coaches do you get?
Yeah, you don't got. There's not many. Dan says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, White is very young. Give him time. Definitely winning a game and making the tournament is an achievement. We got a text on the Titan MR text line here. Comes from Ryan. He says, well, the weekend had some March Madness, but last night was Mismatch Monday with all the snoozers. In other news, Leonard Hamilton passed Charlie Strong and has taken the lead in the category of that dude is how old? Hope I'm that spry when I'm 52. Yeah. Leonard's like 74 years old and looks like
Is he really?
50.
Is he that old?
Like,
I didn't run. Wow.
Yeah, he's in his 70s.
He just got re-upped. He just re-signed him doing the local.
And, you know, speaking of that, I saw a stat last night that in his first 15 years at Florida State, they never made a Sweet 16.
I know, that's amazing.
And they've made the Sweet 16 the last 3 years.
They could be a sleeper here. They could be a sleeper.
No, they definitely are. But my point to that is, think about what I just said, buddy. In his first 15 years, he did not make a Sweet 16.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
too good a coach not to do that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how your brackets look, but this mine, and everybody's are disastrous. And
I mean, I still got 3 teams that can make the Final
do too.
Four.
I have 3. I do too. I'm 3. The one you ain't got is the one I ain't got. Nobody got them. Illinois, the big disappointment. But and in my Michigan team that I got on, told people don't sleep on Michigan now. People say, well, they lost their best player. Listen, there's some really good basketball teams in here. LSU gave Michigan all they wanted last night, and then Michigan came, pounded it through, and got it done. So yeah,
well, Michigan's the only Big Ten team left.
That's not going to disaster. SEC's got 2, as you pointed out. They got 1.
Yeah.
And who they lose to? Ohio State lost to the same team that Florida got beat by, Oral Roberts.
Yep. Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. March is your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We're speaking with Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show. You can check it out Monday through Fridays on Facebook Live around 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Second portion of the show, we're going to have Ed Berliner on down in Orlando. His program called The Man in the Arena. He's a actor, Emmy Award winner. But he did an interview with Bobby Bowden and Coach Spurrier. We'll talk about that. So, Buddy, as we talked last night, you don't remember. I mean, are you in agreement with me that Mike White is not going anywhere?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think what you said is spot on. But I also reserve the rights of the Gator fans to be unhappy, because here's why, as I pointed to you on my show last night, the game was in their hands. They had the game won. 11 points, 4 minutes to go. You ought to win that game, right? And the decision to walk the ball up was not a good one. I mean, that was, and I still don't agree. I know Noah Locke makes that shot. I think that was not a time to shoot a 3. I think when you're down by 2 with 15 seconds to go, you pound the ball inside to the big guy, and then you've got to get an and one. And Castleton was playing great. So the basic tenets of all sports, Shane, and you talked about this with a football team. When you over substitute, you don't have your best players on the field.
Yeah.
When you get your best players on the field, you got to get the ball, give them the rock, right? The best players that night were Colin Castleton and Trey Mann. And I know Noah Locke makes that shot of 38% of the time, whatever. In that situation, I would decide to see them put the ball, pound it inside, score. Having said that, I think Mike White did a good job, not a great job, a good job this year of holding it together. And do I think he should be leave? No, I think he's going to be a good coach, and he will yield success. I have no doubt. If Gator fans just have to go back and look at Billy Donovan's first few years, he didn't do so great either. So stay the course, listen to Shane, let Dr. Matthews get you straightened out, and it'll be better next year.
Rick says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mental Law, the Gators lost, but on a good note, Krispy Kreme is giving away a free donut when you show your COVID vaccine card.
So that I got mine. You don't have yours yet, but it's coming.
I don't have mine.
They're knocking the age down. They're coming down. Your age now. You know, Orlando is. You could go to Orlando and get a shot this week. You know that?
Yeah. Well, I'll wait till I can do it here, so I don't have to travel down there. I try to stay away from Orlando. It's too many crazy people down there. Just kidding.
You go to Jacksonville every week.
Yeah, I do. It's different than Orlando, buddy.
Are you coaching with Urban Meyer? I think you got a secret coaching job with Urban Meyer.
I might. You never know. I may be the strength coach. So, buddy, let me ask you this before we move on from Florida basketball.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have said, I've seen articles and tweets and stuff from people that kind of know basketball. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's important for Mike White to look at his coaching staff and maybe hire an older guy? I mean, think about Billy. We didn't really turn the corner in basketball until Larry Shyatt was hired. Mm-hmm. And then if you look at what Juwan Howard, who, Juwan was a longtime player and assistant coach in the NBA. But what he did was when he got the job, he hired Phil Martelli, I believe is his name, the longtime coach at St. Joe, that a lot of people respect. I think helps Juwan being a newer head coach, not so young, but a new coach. Do you think that's a route that they may address?
I would like to see that, because if you look at when Billy had Shy, and France wrote this in his column last week, he loves Mike White. He's been the biggest defender of Mike White, but he says they need to get an offensive coordinator the way Billy got a defensive coordinator in Shia. And once Shia came there, they won championships, national championships. So, yes, I think that'd be a good play. Will they do it? I don't have any idea. I think they need a big man, a little bit of help on their big man. And I think that wisdom. Look at Tex Winter and he was a bench coach of Phil Jackson. It's been done successfully. I think that's an excellent idea.
And you know what's interesting is, like I told you, I watch a lot of basketball, and Isaac Brown, who's now the head basketball coach at Wichita State, was an assistant with Mike White at Louisiana Tech. And I watched them a lot, and they played how Alabama plays right now at Louisiana Tech.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why, when he jumped up to the SEC, why he kind of changed his philosophy. But they were run and gun at La Tech.
Yeah. And speaking of La Tech, you know who's the most famous graduate of that is?
Terry Bradshaw.
When Mike White was hired, he called me and said,
maybe Karl Malone may be just as famous as Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. He's a great player. By the way, Elgin Baylor died yesterday. What a great player. What a great guy he was. 86, so keep losing him. But Terry did say, look, you're going to love Mike White. He's a great recruiter. Well, okay, he's done pretty well in that category, I suppose. But I say again, going back to you, it's been a tough year, the PTSD deal. And I think Mike White, get him through this portal, get him through this situation. And by the way, speaking of portals, basketball, you don't need but a couple of guys in the portal and you're good to go.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I read something this morning that I believe we only, and I'm sure people will correct me, I think we only signed one high school kid who's supposed to be a 4-star, great shooter. I can't remember his name, but I'm pretty sure that our roster is going to be filled up of transfers next year, which I have zero problem. I think that's how you build basketball now. If you look at Alabama, Avery Johnson left Nate Oates a few pieces in place, but they have a transfer from Yale. They have a transfer from Villanova. They have all these transfers. I think that's how you build your basketball program now. Because like you said, buddy, all you need is like 2 of them.
Yeah.
Maybe 3. And then you're in business. So
the whole team, 3, you got a whole team practically. I hope Trey Mann stays another year. I think Trey Mann will stay one more year.
No, I think Trey Mann will go pro. First of all, he will get all his information from the NBA, how they do it. But I think Trey Mann's a guy who, I don't know if he's a starter right now in the NBA, but he's a guy that can make a lot of money coming off the bench.
Is he a first-round pick?
I think so. I don't know. I don't really know, because I don't know the game, because there's so many guys from overseas that go in those drafts, you know. But I think Trey, he shoots it well enough. He can create. He defends. He's 6'5" point guard. Well, he's not really a point guard. He's a 2 guard. So we'll see. I mean, it would be great if he did come back. Dan says here on Facebook Live, and I agree 100% with this, be happy the FBI isn't investigating UF and White is graduating his players.
There you go. That's a good point. Dan's got some good points. He's one of our good listeners. So look.
Just think about it. You know, Kansas got beat by like 30 last night.
Yeah.
They should have opted out and taken their 1 year of no postseason play, how Auburn did. But they didn't, and they got embarrassed.
Well, so you like to say, by the way, where's Duke, by the way? I just see that. Where's Kentucky? Who did they play last night?
Yeah. So it's been a strange year. It is what it is. I think Mike White will get the program. I mean, like I told you, I think we overachieved this year personally, but that's my opinion. All right, buddy. Gators have wrapped up spring football. Y'all got any news from Gator Bait or anything?
We don't have any news to share in football. Cassie did her wrap up. It was pretty generic. We know what the story is. There's 2 quarterbacks. I think the point she made, and it's a good one, is this is the most dangerous time for football players. When you hand it off to the guy who used to be called trainers, now strength and conditioning coaches. Now there's another title out there someplace. But like Mickey Marotti, he coached the team in the offseason, basically, because of the rules. So you hand the team off, basically. Now what will they do? How will they get in trouble? If they do what Dan Mullen hopes he'll do, they're going to be a lot of meetings, a lot of mental coaching, a lot of weight room stuff going on in this off season, and he hopes that this extra time is going to benefit him. Now, I have the flip side there. I get what he's coming from, and Dan's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't need me to tell him. But I worry about the fact that are you going to lose a little mojo in the swamp? And people will say, what do you mean? This is Florida. Look, already college football, the tennis, and it was down. And I think there's a danger here of a disconnect. I don't think they'll lose 2/3 of their third of their fans, but I think what the spring game would have done would have been a rally cry for Gator fans to come together and get things going again. Get behind Mullen, get this thing back on track, because let's face it, they have the makings of an 8 or 9 win team this year. Basically, if they're going to get to 10 and above, they got to get more fan support, and Mullen has to get back in that group.
Yeah, I mean, football's over here for now. Like you said, there'll be a lot of all-season stuff with Savage and his staff getting ready for fall camp. So it is what it is. This is the route that Coach Mullen thought was best for his program, and we have to support it. I don't know if you did see, but the Florida Gators, under guidance from UF Health, have shifted the physical distance guidelines from 6 feet to 3 feet. So they're going to start allowing more people in softball and baseball, which is great news.
Well, how many would they going to get in a baseball game now?
Well, I don't know how many they were doing before, but they're going to add more.
Well, the berm, they got the berm, right? The berm
starts
plus,
this week.
Yeah. So that we calculated last night, that could mean what, 4,000 or 5,000 people in baseball. If they had too bad they could have done it for football and had a spring game, and then they had 20,000 in the swamp. That would have been helpful. Didn't work out that way.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Buddy, did you see where Kyle Pitts ran like a 4.46?
What is that all about?
He's
Gazelle.
Yeah, I think he's gonna. I'm anxious to see. I mean, I think the draft's at the end of April, so it's going to be interesting to see who takes him.
Yeah, it is. And I've seen the mock drafts just like you have. And what we're realizing here is what an extraordinary athlete he was. And he ain't coming through the door either anytime soon. And I think the same thing is the fact that Trask was such a great story. I've said this 100 times. I'll say it again. It's something you build a foundation of a program on. Now they're going to get paid. And from what I'm reading, you're talking about the possibility of, well, what Gator fans are hoping is somehow Urban will make some trades and get Pitts in Jacksonville. That ain't happened. That's a dream. That would be fabulous, because he needs a guy like that who doesn't. So I'm interested to see where Trask is going to fit in. I'm not really sure. I keep reading stories about Pittsburgh.
I read something yesterday. I didn't really read. I just browsed through it. They had him going in the 3rd round. I can't remember who it was too. That sounds about right to me. Late 2nd, 3rd round. I think he will be a backup for 4 or 5 years, depending on what team he goes to. He's a great teammate, and then just who cares if he never plays it down? That's what I try to tell people. Obviously he wants to play, but he's smart. He's a good teammate, and you will last in the NFL a long time if you can be a good teammate and be smart.
What's that like for you when you have to get ready, but you don't get to play, though? He's proven he can do that. He did it at Florida.
Well, that's your job description as a backup quarterback. You ain't going to practice, but you better know what to do if you have to play. And I think he would be very good at that. He's shown he can do that at the collegiate level, not being a long-time starter. But Pitts is a freak. Here's what's interesting. Think about the 3 offensive players that are probably going. I know Grimes will probably get drafted late, but think about Pitts, Trask, and Tony. We don't know where they're going to get drafted. All 3 of them are McElwain recruits.
I know. And by the way, Tony's going to be a first-round pick. He's going to wind up being projected 21st, 22nd player. Which, think about, you kept telling me 2 years ago, well, he's not playing good. He's not doing it right.
I tell you what, he made the biggest improvement of anybody I've ever seen.
I just like to give you a little hard time.
No, I agree. But I only have one problem with Kadarius Toney is when he tries to run backwards.
Yeah. The boy, sure, he can run sideways sometimes. He can really run. Yeah.
You cannot try to run backwards and sideways on Sundays.
I guess you want to go north and south. I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
And you would know because you were in that league for a long time. But that's pretty good. here's one little note I want to make. Please, these people who go on television and keep talking about Florida's not going to be any good next year. They ain't got no receivers. They don't understand what's happened the last 3 years here. Every year they say this about Florida. They don't have they lost all their receivers. They lost 4 to the NFL 2 years ago. What happened?
Yeah, they'll be fine, but I will say this. We ain't gonna have nobody playing tight end like we've
of course not. Of course not.
That guy ain't walking through the door ever again in our lifetime.
Yeah.
But I want you to hear.
Yeah.
I want you to hear this day in sports brought to you by Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. This month, get a free annual maintenance plan with every residential duct cleaning purchased, $199 value. Service departments open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So 1963, buddy.
Yep.
The 25th NCAA men's basketball championship game. Loyola Chicago beat Cincinnati in overtime for the Ramblers' first title and their first title game. That's the last time Loyola won the national title in 1963, and who knows? They may make it back this year.
Oscar Robertson must have been gone by then in those days with Cincinnati, I think. I'm not sure. It would be like late 50s. Yeah, I mean, it's great. They played great. They deserve to be there, and good luck to them. I just like to see some SEC teams in there. I didn't believe in Alabama. I'm starting to a little good. Here's
the thing about Alabama, and I pick them, and I got them going to the Final Four, is their athleticism and just their style of play. But they smart. Here's the thing is, and people, well, why can't Florida play that way? Or our roster's not built to play like that. You got to build your roster. And like I told you, Avery Johnson left him some really good players with Petty, Shackelford, these other guys. And then he added the Villanova transfer, the Yale transfer. The Yale big man, who's 6'10", can shoot threes. All 5 of their guys can shoot threes, and he allows them to. And maybe we can focus and try to get to playing that way, but you got to have everybody be able to knock down a three, and that's what makes Alabama so dangerous.
Yeah, Nate Oates approaches everything with like a mathematician. You know,
he's a math teacher. Yeah. He was a high school math teacher about 8 years ago. Think about that.
Wow.
Yeah. So, all right, buddy. Who you got?
Just quick comment. Coach Prime.
Uh-huh.
Prime, did you watch any of the game, Jackson State? I watched.
I've seen them play. Did they beat Alabama State or Alabama?
No, Alabama State beat them. And one of the things that happened was the quarterback scored to tie the game, and he went to the goalpost and dunked the ball. The quarterback.
You know who the quarterback is, right?
Yeah.
Jalen Jones, who came from Florida.
Right. And he went up and he knows, but and this just speaks to Coach Prime. He's like to be called. DI is a great asset. That program. I'm glad he did. It's good for the HB. What do you call it? HBCU. What is it?
Historical black colleges and universities.
Yeah, and I think that's wonderful. The one thing he has to teach those kids, just because he's prime time, they can't play like their prime time. That didn't cost them, as it turned out. They lost the game on the interception. But a couple of the decisions that they made, they're not a good disciplined team. They lost that game. Alabama State from Montgomery lost that game, and I think he's really good for football, but that's the part of it he's got to teach his kids.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Well, buddy,
tonight
who you got on the show? Who you got tonight?
It's double coverage. We got Cassidy Hill, and Jackie Frangeli tonight talking ball, and they're really good at it. So I'll make a quick cameo, and I'll be out of there, and they'll be doing double coverage. Tune in tonight, 9:00 on the Buddy Martin Show.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it, my man. Be safe.
Thank you, Shane. Bye-bye.
Yep, we're going to take our first time out of the program. When we come back, we'll be joined by Ed Berliner, who hosts his show called The Man in the Arena. And we'll talk about his interview with the head ball coach and the great Bobby Bowden when we come back. You're watching and listening to Pot Up, Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios.
Hey Gators, this is Coach Steve Spurrier. Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Wrap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Darshakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point's where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Dave & Buster's, Nike, Sushi Hana, Uzzaline Day Spa, and coming June of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. I want to thank Buddy Martin for joining us on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline, but now we're going to go back to the Titan Tomorrow Hotline, and we're joined by Ed Berliner, who hosts a show called The Man in the Arena, is also the CEO of Entourage Media. Good morning, Ed. How are you?
Sir, how are you in the swamp this morning?
Doing well. Before we get to talking about this interview you did, you're an Emmy Award actor and all this. Talk about some of the movies you've been in and some of the projects that you've been a part of.
The most recent one was the remake of The Right Stuff. The Disney Channel and the National Geographic folks remade The Right Stuff. I don't know if anybody had a chance, but the book by Thomas Wolfe is a brilliant book about the early space program. And years ago, there was actually a movie made on it was a long-form movie with Sam Shepard and Ed Harris about it. And so they remade it as a mini-series focusing on the early astronauts. I was in that. We shot that up at Universal Studios just before the pandemic. The one where I still get recognized from a lot is a small turn with Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, in the movie Game Plan, which God only knows and still will show up. I'll be sitting at home flipping through the cable, and there it is, the Game Plan. It's on a different channel. There it is, the Game Plan. It's on a different channel. It keeps playing over and over again, which for an actor is always good because that means the residual checks continue to walk in the door every time that happens. A lot of commercials as well, but those are the two movies that I am really most proud of. There was another one called All He Wanted, which had Anne Hathaway and Ben Affleck, which was shot also a couple of years ago that wound up on Netflix. So it's a diverse group of films.
Yeah, you host a show called The Man in the Arena. How long have you been doing that show? And talk about some of the great interviews and some of the people that you've had on that show.
The Man in the Arena came up actually. There was it's a business of mine that a friend of mine and I started, a Gator as a matter of fact, with the name of Stu Opperman, who's my closest friend. We started a company and we used the great Winston Churchill's line, The Man in the Arena, to kind of idealize what we were doing. So we created this show a long time ago. It came back as a podcast about 3 years ago, which is now both on audio and video. And of course, the shameless plug of the morning will be that Man in the Arena is available at welcometothearena.com. And also it is on all major audio podcast platforms. And there's different facets of it. We've done the sports reporters. We've done Sports Pulse, which is more of an interview show with sports figures, and many such as yourself. There are now news programs called the Press Corps, which deals in real news and real facts and commentary from that. People that I have had, wow, you're going to have me dig into the long list here, because these shows themselves are more towards news and not celebrity types. Over the years I've had on the shows, my goodness, Bobby Orr, Phil Esposito, Coach Bowden, Coach Spurrier have been there as well. Billie Jean King, Martina Navratilova, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods when he was young, and his father. the Williams sisters. It has run the gamut to so many of these people that I managed to do. Walter Payton many, many years ago. Muhammad Ali. I got to interview and know Muhammad many times on shows that I did. So I've been fortunate enough to know a lot of these people. It's funny too, Shane, because I think that I've been lucky enough to be at a time in life and a time in sports society where there are so many greats that literally it's impossible to keep track of them all. And all the ones that I've interviewed, I sat down one day and figured that I've probably interviewed over 10,000 people in my career. And a lot of them notables in different places. I mean, sitting down with Arthur Ashe one day for an hour and a half, just sitting and talking. Cosell, I lucked into an interview with Howard Cosell a million years ago when he was in his studio in New York City. So many others that it's a matter now of finding the really great stories and not just the individuals. There's so many people whose stories are known, but I kind of like telling the personal stories of the athletes and those on the stories themselves.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We're speaking with Ed Berliner here on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. You can follow him on Twitter at Berliner Speaks. He's an Emmy award-winning sports and news broadcast journalist. You hosted an interview with Bobby Bowden and Coach Steve Spurrier, the head ball coach for Florida Rising Stars Project, and we're going to run at the end of the program today. We're going to run part of that program. But was this the first time that you had both these two legendary coaches on in an interview at the same time?
Oh yeah, it's rare. Wayne Hogan's an old friend of mine from his days at Florida State, and Wayne and I started talking about Florida Rising Stars and what he was doing, and I've been fortunate enough to get involved in the project since then. I think it's a brilliant idea to basically prepare kids from more than just the game themselves, more than just athleticism, but for life afterwards. And we kicked it around, and he said there's a chance to get Coach Spurrier and Coach Bowden on the air at the same time. I said, okay, now let's do it now. It's one of those moments where you go, yes. The sentence is not even finished before you want to do that. So I have had the chance to interview them many times over the years, mostly in radio, because there was a show that we did out of Miami that my company syndicated ourselves called The Press Box, and it was nicknamed the fastest 60 minutes or the fastest show in sports. And we did a state component, just state interviews for that. And I had Coach Spurrier and Coach Bowden on occasionally doing that, but to have the two of them sitting there and just the interaction between them, it's funny, but we as reporters and journalists and people who are involved in covering the sports, and I think fans don't really see that many times, where we look at the rivalry between coaches and athletes, and people see it on the surface. But when you get to know the individuals and you know that many times they are friends, they are respected colleagues, and they have a respect amongst them, when you get a chance to bring them together and then you hear that, you go, wow, okay, well, they didn't hate each other. We grow up in that. He must have hated the other coach, or he must have hated the other player. And you know this as a player too. There's a respect for guys who you beat and who beat you, because you know great talent when you see it. So to have them on the air and watch them interact was just a fascinating time. I could have done that show for hours.
Yeah, I agree. And you bring up a good point that, I think as a former player, coach, or what have you, there is that respect factor there. And yes, you want to win and beat that person, but once the game is over, it's over. Where the fan, they hate one another. The Florida and the Florida State fan can't get along at times, and they can't understand why a Florida and Florida State player can hang out or play golf or what have you. But I think it's the respect factor. We got a text on the Titan Tomorrow text line here from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios for you, Ed. It comes from Tony. Tony wants to know, if you had a choice what is the one athlete that you would love to interview and have on your show?
Wow. Boy, having been through so many in my career,
So is it you can't think of the one person that you like, dang, I want to get him on my show, and you never been able to do it?
well, I mean, there's so many. Actually, I'll give you one, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who is a fascinating individual, who is so brilliant and so erudite, and is involved in so many social causes, and speaks on the game itself. I would love to sit down and just pick his brain for an hour and sit and talk with him about his experiences. I would have given anything to had a chance at Jesse Owens to talk more about his life and his amazing career. And I guess probably I think more along the line of those athletes, because I've interviewed so many athletes in American sports that, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I actually had a chance to interview Mickey Mantle before he passed when I was at one of the sports networks. So there's another one sitting in there. But yeah, those are the kind of athletes that I'd like to get to now. The ones that have very deep stories and can tell more than what happens on the court and on the playing field.
Yeah, and like I said, in a few minutes we're going to run bits and pieces of the interview that you did with Bobby and Coach Spurrier, and part of the Florida Rising Stars project. Talk a little bit about what I don't know how much involved you are with the project, but what it's all about and what it means to Ed to be a part of that project.
I'm just getting involved in the project now, Shane, because Wayne Hogan got me involved, and the reason why I'm involved is because here in the state of Florida, I've covered so many athletes over the years and watched them all grow and watched young athletes grow as well. Larry Bluestein is a great friend of mine, and I don't know if you know Larry, but many people know Larry around the state. He is the preeminent high school reporter, columnist. He knows every high school football player in the state of Florida and has for 40 years. He's amazing. And to watch these kids grow through the system has always been fun of mine to watch. But there's always been an element that is missing, and that's getting these kids ready for life after the game, getting them ready for the business side of it, getting them to understand their brand, who they are and what they are. And that's what attracted me to this, is because we as professionals in the sports industry, in the broadcast industry, in the business industry, we understand sports. We've been there. You, me, the others, we've been at the core. We know how it's played. We know how the game is played at that level on the field. But we need to get to these young men and young women and teach them what happens after the game, and when they can no longer throw a baseball, and when they can no longer shoot the three-pointer or throw the touchdown. That to me is I'm thrilled to be a part of that, and I also am hoping that I can pass on to some of them who might want to become broadcasters. Oh my goodness, I don't know why. Please, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Walk away. No, I'm just kidding. But to be able to help them in their career as well, and to give them that mentorship, which is so desperately lacking these days. That to me is the single biggest thing about Florida Rising Stars, and what I'm really looking forward to getting my teeth into.
So you're a Florida State guy, right?
No, I'm not a Florida State guy. I am completely neutral, totally. No, I'm very serious. In my broadcast career, being in South Florida, I covered the University of Miami. I mean, I was there when Coach Schnellenberger was there and really restarted the program. And I have always had a great affinity for these three schools. I mean, look, come on, the rivalry between, there is nothing like the rivalry between Seminole Gator and Hurricanes. It is the most entertaining thing to watch. The recruiting battles are great fun to watch. But no, I split it right down the middle, Shane. I am right there on all sides, man. I do not take sides. I see the good and I see the bad and all, but right now when it comes to these three schools, I see the good and I love watching them play.
Awesome. Well, Ed, we appreciate you taking the time to join our program today. We're going to take a timeout here, and then we're going to show bits and pieces of the interview that you did for the Florida Rising Stars Project with Bobby Bowden and Coach Spurrier. And we appreciate you taking time today from your busy schedule joining our program.
Hey, everything's good in the morning. The dogs are walked and fed, so everybody is happy. Right. Shane, it's always a pleasure, man. Anytime you need me, please call.
All right, Ed. Take care. That's Ed Berliner. You can check him out on Twitter at Berliner Speaks. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida. Understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 4 convenient Alachua County locations. Center State Bank, member FDIC. You're going to take our final time out today. We'll come back. You're going to really enjoy this interview with Coach Spurrier and Bobby Bowden.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Chomp Harder Apparel, Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
I want to get to a couple of things here, and I want our audience, both on our video and also on our audio podcast, to hear a couple of things that I want to get involved in here and be able to present. First of all, I'm going to go to Coach Bowden. I will never forget a game you played at the Orange Bowl, and it was a 10-9 loss. And at that point, I was a young radio reporter. And if you remember the Orange Bowl at that point, the press, the locker room was a concrete bunker almost outside of the door, and you had lost the game, and I'll never forget you just sitting there in a chair going, "Dadgummit, I just don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. And you every piece of emotion was pouring out of you at that point, and that's the moment I remembered to myself, this is a man who cares, and number two, he really does say dadgummit, because I had somebody swear to me one time. They said, Coach Bowden never said dadgummit in his life. I said, yes, he did. I was there. I was there when he said it. I've never met a Coach Bowden, who left as much of his emotions in front of people as you did. It was an astounding thing to watch.
You know, it's probably true in all coaches. People don't, unless you have coached at my level and Steve's level, you don't realize how much a loss hurts. I mean, man, our whole future is built around winning, you know, and to lose a ball game, especially 10-9, 1 point, it's tough, boy. I mean, you got to live with it all week. Play another ball game, maybe you can forget it or push it in the background, But people who have never coached on our level have no idea how bad it hurts to lose. Now, I played not to lose. I played not to. I don't want to lose, man. and that hurts worse maybe than winning feels good.
Spurrier, how did you handle it? I mean, I remember a lot of times during losses, you were much different when it came to dealing with losses. Your emotional level seemed to be very much in check at the time when you did it. How did you handle that?
Oh, I don't know how so well. I know that
it seemed. Let's put it this way: the perception was you were handling it. You were angry. You got angry after a loss. You could tell.
Yeah. But losing's going to happen. And actually, Coach Bowden's had more tough losses, I think, than most all of us. I was lucky to be a head coach 30 years. And you always look back and know well, we had some close wins, but Coach Bowden had some tough ones. When the field goal guy misses, I don't know, was it 4 or 5 of those games that could have been won against Miami? And they were big. And national championship implications. And, I've lost a few like that, but I think Coach Bowden might have had more tough luck in those kind of games than most coaches because he had so many great teams all those years there. So I tried to justify it with the attitude, hey, going to win some close ones and lose some close ones. But, it's sort of a fact of life. Some coaches are sort of luckier or whatever in those close games, and they win more and maybe they lose. I don't know. But, no, it hurts. It hurts. Shake it off and get ready for the next one.
How long did it take you to get over a loss? I mean, right away? I mean, some coaches I know say, it's gone, it's over. I find that hard to believe.
Oh, I'm still going back, ifing and butting if we'd won this one or that one and this one and that one. But you can't get them back. So I'm trying to get it every time. So, it's hard to do. So, I can tell you the score about every loss I had for 12 years at Florida this year. And I'm sure Coach can probably tell you the scores too, because he didn't have many losses either. But no, they hurt. But you have to regroup and move on.
You learn from losses. Great coaches taught me this. Don Shula taught me this over the years when he sat me down and said, if you don't learn from a loss, then you have learned nothing. That you must learn from your defeats.
True.
And I think too often we're hung up on wins in this country. You learn from victory. No, you don't. You learn from the moment when you are beaten down onto the ground somewhere and somebody has taken the best of you, and then you have to rise to be better. Part of that is what the two of you gentlemen are involved in that I want to make sure we talk about.
When you lose, it's hard to say when you lose, you want to know why. When you win, everybody's happy.
Well, how much time did you spend then? How much time did you spend then, Coach Bowden, on when you lost, figuring out why? Did you really spend that much time?
Well, how long ago did Miami beat us 26-25 for the national championship? How long ago was that? I ain't forgot that yet.
Okay, so that sticks in your craw. Coach Spurrier, what loss sticks in your craw to this day?
I was thinking about one this morning. We lost at FSU in '98. I think it ended up 23-12. We were recovering a fumble in the end zone, and it squirted out, and FSU got it and only got a safety. And I think their quarterback, a kid named Rooster, what was his name, Coach? The quarterback you had in '98 at FSU?
Yeah, his nickname was Rooster.
Yeah. But anyway, he threw a pass that our guy had an interception, went through his hands, and the FSU receiver caught it and ran for a touchdown. Anyway, we got beat. If we won that game, we would play Tennessee for the national championship, and Bobby and his guys got to play Tennessee. And Coach Bowden would probably tell you that '98 team he had, it wasn't quite as great as a lot of the teams he had, but they were one game away from winning the national championship. And I just think we could have beaten Tennessee if we'd have got to that game. So that was one that I was thinking about this morning for whatever reason.